Morning everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're working on the Bentley Continental Flying Spur, and we're going to be changing over a brake caliper. Let me show you what the problem is. So if we go around to the left hand side, that's the passenger side brake, you can see that we've got excessive corrosion and some deep scoring here on the actual brake disc itself. Let's take you in so you can see that a bit better. Some nasty deep scoring going on there, and that's because the brake pad has been completely worn away in here because this brake caliper has actually seized. Now we've had issues with this previously, and you can see the state of the wheel. It's going to all need a really good clean up when we get this off. But we've had issues before with this brake caliper, and we tried to service it ourselves by replacing the seals on it, but unfortunately it hasn't lasted very long. So we've gone ahead and we've ordered a new brake caliper, which will be here later today. So in today's video I'm going to show you again on the Bentley how we put it into service mode, and I'm going to show you how we jack the car up, how we remove and replace this brake caliper, and we're going to put some new pads in, of course. The brake disc, we'll see if we can save that. It might need skimming, we might need to replace it, but we'll see. We'll see if we can change it, we'll see how much thickness is left on it. First thing we're going to want to do is put the car into service mode. So let's get inside the car and to put the car into service mode, all we're going to do is go down here and we're going to turn the ignition on, and we're going to press this button and this button at the same time. Then we're going to look on the dashboard down here and you'll see a little jack symbol come up. So I'll go ahead and do that and I'll show you what it looks like. There we go, we've got the jack symbol now. That's that symbol down there, and we're in jack mode. So we know now we can actually go ahead, turn the engine off, and we can actually turn the radio off as well. And we can now jack the car safely without messing up the suspension levels. Now we will also be needing to plug in the OBD tool today, and that's so we can wind the handbrake off. So that's our next stage before we go ahead and do anything else. So we'll go ahead now and get the car chopped off, and then we'll get the handbrake wound back. Let's go ahead and do that. So we get some chocks under both of the front wheels on the car. So today we're going to be using the DS708, and we're going to use this to wind the brakes off. So what we need to do is put the ignition on. With the ignition on, we've got power. Now turn on the unit, and we just need to access the menu for the Bentley so we can just go into service mode for the brakes. So I'll just quickly fast forward through all of this. We'll get to that menu and I'll show you how we do it. And that's it guys, the parking brake is now completely wound off. The battery's a little bit low on the Bentley, so I did have to start the engine to get it to communicate properly, but nonetheless, that's it done. So we'll turn the engine off. So of course, we've got a flashing light down here now on the park brake. That's normal because the parking brake's been fully wound off. No problem, because of course, we've got the front wheel chopped off down there with a couple of good bits of wood. I could just ask you to pause for a moment, and if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe, hit that like button, and of course remember to hit the notifications bell so you're notified every time we upload a new video. So at this stage all I need to do is just break off each of these wheel nuts. You'll notice some of them are a little bit tight. They were actually done up to 120 foot-pounds. However, because that caliper's been getting extremely hot, and that's also why the paint's come off the caliper, these have pretty much welded themselves in, so it's quite a bit of effort to undo. Anyway, let's fast forward through this and then we'll get the jack underneath. Now we'll just cut away a minute to show you where that jacking point is underneath the back of the car. It's just forward of the rear wheel. And now we've got the jack underneath, the wheels just off the ground. We can go ahead and remove all 5 of the wheel nuts, including the locking wheel nut. And then we can just place the wheel to one side. See here we've got the spline for the locking key. So I'll put those safe, then we'll come back and we'll take the wheel off. Always worth checking the tyre. Got good tread on this tyre. Nice spider there, look. And we're just checking for any cuts or damage or bulges along the back. And we'll take that wheel away and we'll let the spider find a new home somewhere else. So this has given us access now to the brake caliper itself. The brake caliper, we've got the electronic parking brake mechanism at the back. We need to identify the wiring, so we can unplug this, and we've got 2 bolts that they're 13mm, which actually hold the caliper on. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and we'll undo these 13mm bolts. We'll get the caliper off, we'll trace the wiring, we'll unplug that. Seems to be at the back here. And then we'll wait for the new caliper to turn up. Okay guys, so I'm just going to take you underneath and I'll show you here. This is where your brake fluid comes in. I just pulled this sleeve back slightly. So we need to really clean this up, all this corrosion, so we can get the brake spanner on there. And before we actually take the caliper off, I'm just going to actually try and loosen that slightly, because at the moment the caliper's held nice and firm and solid, which gives me a solid base to actually turn this. So if I take the caliper off and then try and undo that, that's going to be an issue. So let's try and get this cleaned up and then taken off. Well, not taken off fully, but just slackened before we get the caliper off. And I'll just show you where the electrical connector is, and that's here at the back. So we're going to need to press that tab or pull that tab or do something with that tab once we've pulled this off this bracket, so we can release that electrical connector. Okay, and that's for the parking brake mechanism at the back. There may well be a wire also for the brake pads. I can't see that at the moment, so we'll address that as we go. But if we look down there, we can see that the piston, which is all the way down here, is almost fully out, and it's stuck out as well, and that's what's worn the pads pretty much completely out. We can see here on the pad, or what's left of it, there really is nothing left. It's just metal to metal. So these were left way too long. But anyway, let's go ahead and get that undone at the back. Alright guys, so I've got the spanners out, specific spanners for doing these brake pipes. I've got the slot in there and the multi-side. But before we do that, I'm going to go underneath here with a wire brush, and we're just going to give this a really good clean. Okay, so we've cleaned it up as best we can with the wire brush, so we're now going to find what size that is. I'm guessing it's going to be around the 12-13mm. We'll find the spanner and we'll show you what size it is. Okay, so that's a 14mm. And to get it on, we've just gone to the back of the pipe there, and then we just slide that over, okay, until it just finds where it wants to be on there. And we're going to need it to be its next orientation, so we need to turn that down. So I'll go ahead now I've got that on there, and just give this a nice pull down, and what that will do, it'll just break the seal between the pipe and the caliper. And once we know we can undo that nice and easily, I'll just nip it up then again so that we don't actually lose any brake fluid anywhere. Now it'll come as no surprise this pipe's been on since factory, and no matter how hard I pull or tap, it doesn't want to come loose. So let's go get the hammer and give it a tap. Okay, so this brake pipe doesn't want to come loose by hand. Been here for about 15 years, so it's not surprising. So I'm going to use a hammer and just give it a nice little tap. See if we can shock it. Or something's turning. What I don't know now is whether that's rounding it off or it's actually turning it. So I'm just going to go on and have a better look. Appears to be turning, and it is. So that's good. We now know we can undo the pipe without any problems. Okay, so you can see that we've now broken this seal. We've got no leakage underneath. So I'm going to go ahead now and get the spanner to undo the bottom and top caliper bolt. You'll also notice though that it's twisted the brake pipe down here. So we're not going to take it out anymore this way. We'll wait till we've got the caliper off so that we can actually undo this without twisting the brake pipe anymore and causing damage. So let's go ahead and get those two 13mm off from underneath. I brought two 13mm out using this one, which is a stepped one, just to actually get the initial brake. Once we've got the bolt to undo, we'll then go ahead and use the ratchet 13 to wind it off. Okay, now the next problem you might find is once you've broken these and you've got them to turn, you'll see the whole thing's turning, and this I think is around 15mm. So if you get an open-ended spanner and just put that on there, you'll be able to use the ratchet on the 13 this side to wind that out all the way, because this shouldn't be turning when trying to undo that, otherwise it won't come loose. So I'll go ahead, get a spanner, and I'll show you how we do that. Okay, more spanners. 16. Good. So it is a 17mm, you just need to find a thinner spanner. Okay, so we've got a 17mm on there. Just note, this distance across here needs to be quite thin, so you need quite a thin spanner for that to work. I'll go ahead now with that on there. I'll put the ratchet spanner on the back, as long as I get it on the right way. And that'll lock itself off. And I can go ahead now and withdraw from the back here. That. Now we should get new ones of these in the kit, so I'm not fussed about what happens to that. Go down here to the bottom one, get that to lock in. So that's now locked off there. Spanner back on. Once you've got these wound out a little bit, you generally can find you can undo them by hand. They're not tight, they shouldn't be tight to do. So that's those out. And these sliders should move freely in and out. Another common problem is that these do seize. But if you're just doing brake pads, just check that these are okay. Now, obviously we're having a new caliper, so this is all going to be brand new on the new caliper anyway. So, just to remind you, what we've done is we've slackened this off while it's all in situ, so it's nice and solid. We cleaned it up first. We've not undone it so much that brake fluid's coming out, so we don't want to lose it, but we also have a little twist going on down here now in the pipe, so we're going to take the caliper off before we actually undo this anymore. And all we're going to do is put the spanner on there and hold it, and what we'll do, we'll hold the caliper and we'll twist the caliper rather than twisting the brake pipe to get that off. But all that's left to do now is actually just withdraw the caliper away. So let's go ahead and do that. Now we might need a little bit of leverage on here, just in here with a pry bar or a big flat bladed screwdriver, just to lever it left, right, up and down, whichever way you want to look at it, just to actually get this to come off, because it's going to be pretty much welded and seized on there. Something to watch out for when this comes off is, with the pistons being so far out, they could just pop out altogether, and if they do, then the problem we've got with that is that all the fluid's going to come out, and then we're going to have to bleed the system all the way through. So just something to be aware of to try and make sure that the pads don't come all the way out. Sorry, not the pads come all the way out, the piston doesn't come all the way out when removing the caliper itself. Okay, so we've got the screwdriver. I'm going to use the pry bar. Just going to try and get this underneath here. Try and pry this very seized caliper away. Nice and slow, but it's coming off. That's all that matters. Okay, so that's about to come off there. It's right at the very edge. So I'm going to pause at that point. We're going to go back to this side and we're going to look at the electrical connector and see if we can get that off. Okay, so we're back to the electrical connector now for the part brake. So we need to get this away from that bracket. So I'll figure out how to do that, and I'll come back and show you. But I don't think we can disconnect it while it's in the bracket. Never done one of these, so we'll figure it out and we'll come back and show you what we did. Okay, this is extremely brittle. This plastic that goes across here, and it's pretty much broke away immediately, but that's not going to be an issue. But you can see that the tab here goes through the little hole there when the connector's pushed in, and that's what holds it. But that's now disconnected. And all we need to do now is get this off, because as you can see, that goes from the part brake all the way into that bracket. So I'm just going to spray this with some WD-40 to try and give it a bit of lubrication, then we'll just try and pry that out of the bracket. So just leave that to soak a minute, and then we'll give that a bit of a pry, see if we can get the connector out. Okay, so you can see there the bracket, it just slides into that groove there. And all I did, I got a big flat bladed screwdriver in between it, pushed against the dust plate here, and that pushed that out. It was quite stiff, that took quite a bit of energy and effort. It's no issue. If this bends slightly towards the disc, you can always push it backwards and bend it away, so it's no big deal. As long as, of course, this is in good condition. Press it down, not go over the way. So that is your handbrake connector disconnected. So the caliper now really is ready to just come away. This is what we're going to go ahead and do now. We're going to get the caliper brought all the way off, get the pads out, and then we're pretty much ready for the new caliper to go on when it arrives. Come on, Mr. DHL, where are you? We're just prising the caliper off the final bit now. See the piston here and the seal that's done completely. Now that's seized on. Alright guys, so it's off and I've untwisted the brake pipe, the flexi, and that seems to be in good condition, so we're going to be fine to use that. But I just wanted to show you the state of the piston itself. It's you can see it's pulled the seal out, so that's just completely corroded in there. As for the pads, well, what pad? The springs to mine, that's what's left on the inside. A little bit of pad left, but not much. In a real state, certainly ready to go. And this, well, it's right through to the rivets, you can see here. No pad left whatsoever. Metal on metal, and that is what's scored the brake disc. Now, it may actually look on here worse than it is. It's a small score, but I've seen far worse than that. Width-wise, this is definitely thinner this side than that side. I'm not sure what the spec is for it, so I may well go ahead and change this disc in the future. I've not got one on order today, so I'm going to put it back together. The car's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon anyway, so it's not going to wear the pads out by putting it together. But I think I may well go ahead and actually change that disc. I'm going to change the pads the other side, and we'll see in comparison to this whether this is thin and that's thick. Well, I think these should be the same size. So if that's what we find on the other side, I'll go ahead and change this disc anyway. But yeah, at 150 quid a disc, and that's from Flying Spurs, they're not the cheapest thing in the world to be buying, so we'll make sure we do need it before we change it. But today we're going to get these are all going to be replaced as well, so we can have those off, because they're going to come new in the kit for the brake pads. There's no wires on the brake pads on these, and I know I said earlier that you might actually get these replaced, but that depends whether or not the brake caliper kit comes with the carrier as well. If it doesn't come with a carrier, which I'm not sure if it does or not, then obviously these would need to be serviced if they were seized and you were doing this caliper change. But anyway, that's it for now, guys. Need to wait for Mr. DHL to turn up so we can actually switch the caliper. Okay. Just thought I'd mention, one of the things I'm going to do is, when we get the new caliper, I'm going to fill the cavity behind the piston with fresh brake fluid before reconnecting the line to it, so that we've got minimal air, and then we can just use the bleed screw to bleed out the last little drop of air that might be there. So that'll make it much easier. In the meantime, I'm not sure if this is going to be coming in the kit, so I'm going to clean this carrier up, ready to receive the new caliper if needed. Definitely seeing better days. Always worth removing this when cleaning this, because you don't want to get grease and oil mixed with all the mess and the debris. This is slide bar. Give it a really good clean. Okay, this can now go back in there. There's plenty of grease on it, doesn't need to be re-greased. Just make sure we put that cover, that rubber cover there, just has to slip back over so it's held. Over there. Do the same on this one. Go ahead, push that back in there, push the cover back on. We can just check the operation of those now. They're working absolutely fine. And they're ready to receive the new sliders when they arrive. It is quite heavily fitted, this disc. The score's not too bad, but I think it would be the best option to replace the disc itself. So you guys know, if you need to replace a disc, there's two bolts hold this carrier on at the back. It goes straight through from the very back here. And one underneath this lower arm here. They look to be 18 or 19mm bolts. Then the carrier would come away. We undo this Torx bit here, and then the disc will just pull off to be replaced. It's quite simple, but if we do go ahead and change this disc, which I think we will, I'll show you how to do that at a later date. But for now, that really is pretty much all we can do while we wait for the new bits to arrive. So I think it's time for a coffee. I'll be back in a while. Right guys, so it started to rain, as it always does when you're in the middle of doing these jobs, when you drive. But in between the rain,
without the camera, what I've done is I've removed the old caliper. I've fitted the actual line here to the new caliper. Just going to rest that on here. And what we now need to do is, with the grease here, just apply a small amount. Just going to open that. Put a little bit on here. A little bit in there. A little bit in here. Okay, so I've just put a little bit of grease in each of those. And put a little bit on the back of each pad. Smear this. This is an anti-squeal grease. Okay, that's what we're putting it on for. Onto the anti-squeal shim. Just put some in the sliders. And the reason we're doing this is to make sure that, one, it doesn't squeal, and two, when we put these pads back in, without breaking them, of course. Wrong one. There we go, it's in there nicely. That's in there nicely. It's going to go and clean my hands. Okay, so I'm just going to put this grease out the way. So we've got the new sliders on here. We've put the brake pads in, the Brembo ones. We've fitted the caliper. What we need to do now is actually slide the caliper back on in place. To do that can be a little bit tricky. Bear with me. There we go. Okay, so now we've got the caliper in place. The electrical connector there. What we haven't done is fitted the wire. My mistake. So I'm going to go ahead now, remove this and fit the wire. Needs to go on the brake pad itself. It's only going one way. Hey guys, just to show you how these go in, okay? This is your brake wear indicator. So with that facing the diamond like a house, facing up, goes in, and then we're going to twist it. Get that to go right. I've done it wrong. My apologies. Go. Okay, so you can see you've got a flat here, so that flat's got to go through there, and that flat's got to line up, and the flat lines up with a hole, it'll push through and you'll be facing like this. And then you've got this clip here which goes over the back of the pad, and you force that up and that locks in and holds it in. Okay, I've not forced it all the way up yet, but that pin forces a little groove there. Once it's sitting in that groove, that holds the indicator so it can't come out. It takes a little bit of effort. Sometimes it's better to have two people do this, one pushing one side and one wobbling it across, but either way, that's how you do it, guys. That's how you hold the pad on, so you know for next time when you come to fit yours.
As you can see there, guys, the clip's now fully on, and that's what holds your wear indicator in, just like that.
Go ahead now, and yet again, put this in. Here we've got two new slider bolts. One. Two.
If you've made it this far through, you'll definitely remember that when we undid the caliper bolts of 13 mils, we needed a 17 mil on the other side, just to be able to make it so we could undo them without it turning. So what I'm doing here is I'm just nipping them up with the 13 mil. It's the open ender at the top and the ratchet there at the bottom, but I do need the 17 mil as well on the other side. Sometimes you don't need the spanner on the other side, sometimes you can just nip them up, but we definitely will need the 17 mil, so you'll see me in a moment just nip off and get that so we can tighten these up properly.
Of course we need that 17 mil that we used earlier on, so I'll fetch that. 17 mil here. That's tight. Nice and tight, and that is your caliper rebuilt. What we need to do though is we need to reconnect this wire, which is for the part brake, and we need to just cable tie up this wire here, which is the wire we've just fitted. That is for the brake wear indicator. Go ahead and cable tie that up in a moment. Let's just connect this back up. And that is your job done. As simple as that. So all we've done is we put some grease on the back of the pad on both sides. We've put some grease inside here and here on both sides. We've reconnected the wire for the parking brake, and we've connected up the wire for the parking sensor, but we are going to zip tie this up so it's nice and tidy, because at the moment it's quite long, the wire that's been sent. It's unnecessarily long really, but the caliper itself is on. Tighten these bolts. What I will do is, now I've got it all together, is I'll just nip this up here, which is the 14 mil, which is the brake feed, just to make sure that's on, and then we can go ahead and bleed the brakes. The nipple is hiding. Oh, can't quite do it, please bear with me. There we go. Bit of grease on the hands. We've got cover here, so we've got the bleed nipple there, ready to bleed the brakes. So let's go ahead now, get some zip ties and tie all this up properly so this is finished and neat, and then we can go ahead and bleed the brake. Here's our 14 mil. Making sure that's nice and tight. Just going to pull that sleeve back round, which is the protective cover, help with corrosion prevention. So that's all back on. Right, next job, we're going to go ahead and bleed this particular brake. bleed the brake, we're going to be using this. Just slide over the nipple. I just need a 10 or 11 mil on there. Loosen that. See what size that is. Too big. So it's 12. Okay, so it's an 11 mil bleed nipple. We'll just open that slightly. I'm going to go ahead inside the car and just pump the pedal a couple of times till we get some fluid coming out of here.
So something I didn't really explain, the brake bleed kit that I'm using, it actually has a vacuum on there so you can connect it to a compressor and you can suck the fluid through if you need to. But it also has a one-way valve actually in the pipe. So you may think, well, if you're pumping the pedal, what's going to happen when you let go of the pedal is you're going to draw the fluid and any air bubbles back in. Well, because we've got a one-way valve in there, what I'm doing is I'm pumping the pedal then coming back to check to make sure we've pushed enough fluid past that one-way valve, which once we've done that, we know it can't actually return any air back into the system, and we just go and lock it off there with the 11 mil and then we can remove the pipe.
Cover back on. What I am going to do is I'm going to go underneath there and just double check the fluid level under the bonnet. Now I did top it up before I started doing this, so I know it won't have pulled all that through, but we will just check to make sure that the fluid level's still okay. Okay, so I've just topped it up and it took, I don't know, not much, maybe 2 or 3 capfuls just to top it back up, but it was still well above the minimum mark, so I'm pretty sure that's going to be okay. And that, guys, is it for this side. So all that needs to happen now is we put the wheel back on, we take the wheel off the other side, we replace the brake pads on the other side the same. The brake disc we're going to leave for now, I've got one on order, but the car's going nowhere, so I'm not bothered. We'll put it back together as it is just for now so I can move it on the driveway. I'm going to get the brakes done the other side and job's a fish once we get the new disc. So thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, remember to go down and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Like it with a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Double like it, that's a thumbs down. Double like, thumbs up, whichever. Either way, I really appreciate you sitting with me and watching the video. I hope you found it helpful. And of course, yeah, remember to hit the bell icon, because if you don't hit the bell icon, you won't know next time I upload a video. Thank you so much to everyone that watches the channel and supports us. Peace out, and we'll see you next time. Ta-ra!